All right, so I think we're recording again. This is practice, but this is the Ahead of the Count podcast.
Official.
Unofficial, official. If you like it, if we like it, it'll be episode 2. But August Haymaker today.
Yes, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Very excited. Very excited for this
3
one.
Dr. Phillips, born and raised.
Alumni. All right, well, let's get into it.
Yeah, so like
I don't
you
get an
said,
introduction.
Oh yeah, we got Andrew.
I guess I'm the tech guy. I'm just here for the ride.
Co-host.
young Jamie,
Yeah, pretty
Co-host.
much. Protege.
for those Rogan fans out there.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, yeah, let's hear it. Let's
Yeah.
hear about yourself.
So, like you said, my name is August Haymaker. I'm a corporate finance major at Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm also on the baseball team there, and previously I graduated from St. John's River State in Palaca, Florida. And I'm born and raised in Dr. Phillips with these two guys next to me, and that's pretty much me.
Now, I think that you have definitely had just quite the journey as far as,
Oh yeah.
the collegiate level is concerned.
Oh yeah.
For anyone out there that is looking to play college baseball, I don't think it can really get any more real than your experiences that you've had. So, just kind of like dive into like where you started, when you started to get recruited and stuff like that. And
Well, it really started with my older brother, who's 6 years older than me. I pretty much went through his recruiting process because I did all his visits when started when I was 10 years old. Went on all his visits and kind of figured out his journey before mine started. So I learned a lot about college baseball and the recruiting process and even high school baseball. So when I got to be a freshman in high school, it was kind of like, well, is it going to be the same or is it going to be different? And it turned out to be very different. And my recruiting process, for the most part, was pretty slow the first 2 years of high school. But it caught on, and eventually, I had my time and, did my own visits. But ultimately, I committed to NC State after my junior year of high school. And I was committed there. I signed in the fall of my senior year, played my senior year, and then after I graduated, I decided to decommit, and I committed to Virginia Tech. Long story short, I had to make the switch. Really wasn't anything too personal, but ultimately, it was a better decision to go to Virginia Tech, and so I went to Virginia Tech after I graduated high school. I went to summer school there. I guess that was the summer of 2018, and my collegiate career started just then. So, it's been a long, but also the quickest 2 years of my life, going from Virginia Tech and then transferring after my freshman year to St. John's River. There was a lot that went into kind of me bouncing around, but for the most part, my freshman year was, I had my first fall ball in college, which you learn a lot, and I ended up doing okay. And then the spring came around, and I had my first college spring, which was wild. You don't know what to expect, and it's a lot different than watching my brother play his college years, and being the one on the field or being the one in the dugout. It's a lot,
Especially at a school like that,
Yeah, it was a lot, and we had I got recruited to Virginia Tech after a coaching change. So I had second year coaches at Virginia Tech, and there were a lot of new players. There was a lot of turnover, and so I met people from all over the country. I had in the fall, I think I had 45 teammates, and so yeah, I didn't just, it wasn't just my experiences, but it was also the teammates that I had. It was all their experiences, because a lot of them were high school guys, transferred from junior colleges, transferred from four-year colleges. Like, we had guys from all over. So I learned a lot, to say the least, about college baseball, and so.
I bet that was definitely a good segue from high school to like real life, just seeing all those different characters and stuff like that. How'd you stay motivated?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of up and downs. You're not always constantly motivated at the same peak. You're going to be up and down, but I think the important part is to just your daily routine, just doing what you got to do in terms of school and whatever sport you play, and whatever else matters to you. Just it's more of a daily thing than it is like a long term. What am I motivated for? But I think once you find the right motivation, and for me, it's changed at times. Obviously, like I want to do well for myself, but also like my family, my parents, and my friends, like those that care about me. So I think at the end of the day, like that was one of my biggest motivations through the whole thing. Like even when the spring would be really hard, or even like the fall would be really hard, I just think, well, my parents would love to see me play. Like they'd love to see me get on the field. So like let me do what I gotta do to do that, and also you gotta do it for yourself. Like this is my dream, and I think that was also something that I told myself a lot. Was like, this is what I wanted.
Yeah, that's what you've been working for.
Yeah,
pretty
and
much
it's
your
like
whole
now
life.
I'm here,
Yeah.
so it's like yeah, it might suck at times, but like you just gotta enjoy it. And 3 years. This is my third year now, so it's like I'm on the back end of it, and it's like wow, like now I really gotta cherish this because you know it might suck at times, but you're gonna look back and be like, these were the best times of my life. So that was a couple motivating things.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
important. Like enjoying. You're saying you got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you're not gonna be motivated.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's part of the ups and downs. It's like there are times that you won't enjoy it in the moment, but you'll laugh about it later, or you'll realize it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and I think that this is definitely a skill that I'm sure that you've practiced for a while, but staying consistent, having a consistent routine. Um, do you have a daily routine? Do you have boxes that you like to check off every single day, or how do you kind
Really,
of
I
stay
don't
consistent?
write down my routines. Like I'm not on a fixed schedule. Mainly just because when I come home for break, I have a totally different schedule than I do when I'm at school. And even during school, there's a part of the semester where this is my schedule, but then like this spring, I'll go back for a month before the season starts, and my schedule's like this. But then once games start, I have a totally different schedule. And like so, there are things that I do every day, like working out, doing my baseball schoolwork, skill work, um, eating, like that stuff. Like those are the things that I stay consistent with. But like I don't have that in a daily routine. Obviously, it'd be nice to say, oh hey, yeah, let me read this off. 8 a.m. I wake up. 9 a.m. Blah blah blah. But for me, like especially this being my kind of third time around being on winter break in college, I'm enjoying being home. I'm not really worrying too much about, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. Like, I wake up at a time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got a few things that you just got to do.
Yeah, and I just do it. And at this
Yeah.
point, like, I don't really think about it. I think now,
We can kind of relate to that, for sure.
yeah, yeah, and like now when the spring comes and I have to manage my time, then I'll like have a routine and like depending on what my class schedules are, like obviously my classes are in the morning because of baseball, so it's like I gotta wake up. Well, depending if I have morning weights before class, like I gotta wake up, eat, get ready for school, do school. Afterwards, I gotta eat again, do homework, or get early work in, and then practice. Which takes up majority of the day. So like there's a routine when it comes to that. In the fall and in the spring, but right now the past few weeks I've actually really enjoyed it because it's just like I don't like I wake up at a certain time, but after that it's like all right, I just know I got to get this in and this in and do what I got to do, and that really the routine. I would call that my routine. I know it's not like I can't give you a daily schedule, but when you do all that every single day, that it really does give you confidence in what you're gonna do. So that I do. I would say routines are important, but also just make sure you get it done. Don't worry so much about writing it down and preparing it. Like just go do it.
Yeah, no, I really like that answer, especially because, you know, being a
I
D1.
feel like it's a real answer.
It's a very real
Especially
answer.
at our age.
Very real answer. But, it also kind of goes to show, anybody that you can be a D1 athlete and all this stuff and still be human, You don't need to be a robot just to be a D1 athlete, or you don't need to be a robot to be successful in school, but it's all about just kind of being consistent with, whatever time you have because of whatever is going on around you. And I mean, I remember over the summer, I believe it was, when you started packing on the pounds. What, you were working out like twice a day, right?
Yeah, you talking during quarantine?
Yeah, during
Yeah,
quarantine.
during quarantine, in a time like the quarantine, I did kind of had a daily routine of just I had time to work out twice a day. I didn't have I had graduated like junior college, so I did have a lot of time on my hands, and I did work out a lot. So I put on probably like 15 pounds.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were a skinny boy before that.
Yeah, I had my freshman 15, which I was extremely skinny in high school, but I had my freshman 15 then, and then I guess now I'll call it my junior 15. I had like a sophomore 4 or 5 in between, so.
It was like a collegiate 30 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In sum total, yeah.
But I mean that's good. Especially with those unprecedented times, everyone's saying that,
Yeah.
but it's good to hear what people were doing, how they were spending their time, how you can kind of, when you do have that much free time, it's really interesting to kind of hear how people were being productive with it.
Yeah. I was actually talking to my parents about it last night, and selfishly, I had a great year, and I obviously it was a terrible year for a lot of different reasons, but there was a lot of great things that came in this year, and I was really happy with it, and I know people are ready to throw this year away, but I think you gotta have some sort of perspective, and you gotta get some things done. You can't just blame the year on you not doing stuff. I had a great year because I felt like it's not like I made every second of it matter, but I got a lot done, and I'm really happy about it. So I selfishly, like I said, I feel like I had a great year. I got a lot done.
Yeah, I mean, everything is what you make it. Ultimately, obviously, there's things that are out of your control, but once you realize that you can't control those things,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, I mean, things happen, but
Yeah. Well, it's every year would suck if you think about it that way. And I feel like a big part of 2020 was just the way people talked about 2020.
Especially with just social media too, and just the news, everything.
It's so negative.
Yeah.
And I just.
And especially when you're just trapped inside and in your own thoughts too, and it's just. Yeah.
When it's outside of COVID, what was so bad about this year? Obviously it's a tricky thing to get into because people pass away, but that's just something that happens every single year. I can remember when I had family members pass away years ago, and it's not like people are saying, "Oh man, 2012 or 2013 was a terrible year." That kind of stuff happens every year. But outside of that, what else was so bad about it? A lot of it's just their attitude. People are ready to discount the year and throw it away.
Yeah, and then they think 2021, obviously it's coming up very shortly.
And then they have high expectations for it.
Yeah, it's what you make it. It's not 2020's over.
Yeah.
Nothing bad's going to happen now. But
yeah. And it's part of the New Year's resolution. Everyone's got a New Year's resolution, but you don't.
Yeah.
You fall
off.
Why
do you need to wait till a certain time to do something?
Exactly.
Just do it.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done. I'm sure we've all said stuff and we've never done it. We're not over here. We're not on our high horses over here.
No. Yeah. I mean, overall, it was a global pandemic, and that made 2020 really tough.
Mm-hmm.
But, especially with people like you, and we definitely tried to, make the conscious effort to improve ourselves and stuff. I did think that was kind of an interesting point that both of you guys made where, it's not that you necessarily have to wait for you don't have to wait for the new year to, start over. You can, just kind of press that hard reset button August, whatever. But that's definitely how people start falling behind, just waiting on something to happen instead of going out and doing it.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people won't necessarily get the reference of ahead of the count, but what does being ahead of the count mean to you?
Yeah, so when you asked me this question a couple days ago, I just looked back at the teammates that I've had the past 3 years, including this year, and when I do the math on it, I've had, I guess, close to give or take 120 teammates. I've had a lot of different teammates, because I've been on 3 different teams now. So I've had a lot of different teammates, and I've seen people be average or above average or even below average in different ways. And I'll preface this with, I don't know what it means to be above average. Like, I'm not saying I have no sort of answer. These are just my observations in terms of what I view as being, I don't even want to say successful, but being ahead of the count. And so when I look at my teammates that I've had, and kind of, there are people who I see as ahead of the count, people that I see are deep in the count, whatever else you want to say, above average people versus average people. And there's 3 things that came to mind when I thought about these different teammates that I had, or even myself at different times, like when I saw myself as being successful or not being successful. And the 3 things were like, what are their values, and not in a belief kind of way, just in what motivates them, who are they doing it for, why are they doing it, kind of all their whys, what's their daily motivation, like you asked earlier, which is funny why you asked that, like it went right into what I thought about. 2 being, how well do they take care of themselves, and I'd even argue that that's the number 1 thing, and this isn't in a specific order, but how well do they take care of themselves, mentally, physically, like that's really important. People that have long-term success that I've had and my teammates, like they take care of themselves, like to some degree, like, and not to get too specific about it, but just like, how well do they take care of their bodies? And like, I think we've learned a lot about that in the pandemic. Like, people that take care of themselves are probably okay. And like, if you do those things, that it's a long-term investment to take care of yourself, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But I know, like, physically, me moving all day, me like getting my workouts in or whatever, I feel so much better mentally versus like if I lay around all day. And so like that's, when I see people that are ahead of count, like I think, oh, they really take care of themselves. And then 3, how they value, or I should say, how they treat other people, how they value relationships. That's really important, because I've had a lot of like really good baseball teammates, like they're really gifted at baseball and they're great players, but the people that I remember the most were the people that treated people really well. And like, this isn't about like, oh, who my best friends were. Like, there are people that I might not have been like super close with, but they treated me really well, and like I was happy to see them every day. And like, I think that's important, because I remember great teammates more than I do the great baseball teammates that I had. And like, I think that really says something. And I've had this conversation before with people, but it's really important. Like, I'm not going to remember someone's great swing as much as I am going to remember like the great conversations we had. And it's not so much about like, oh, these are just my best friends. Like, even people I didn't really get to know super well, like, but I think so highly of them because they're great teammates, and I think that's important.
So, this is your 3rd city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, city, quote unquote city, yeah.
City.
Towns.
Town. Is Nashville the
Nashville's the number 1, yeah.
It's home?
They've all been very different, but Nashville is like home, and Nashville's got it going on. I mean, there's a lot of good things about it, and not to talk all day about Nashville. I mean, I just think it's a great city, and it's definitely somewhere that I think I could live after college. So that's just part of why like I love just being there, is because I know I can have a future there, and it's a lot easier to live there when you know like, oh, I could stay here. Like, I'm not living here just to leave. So that's really nice. And yeah, Nashville's.
Yeah, dude, I want to go to Nashville. That's
Dude,
so
it's fun.
fun.
It's fun for tourists, and not that you guys are tourists, but like it's fun to just go there for a weekend, and it's fun to live there. Like it's not just some people think Orlando's, just fun to live in or just fun to visit. Like I think it's both. And Orlando's a bad example because I think Orlando's awesome. And I think people that visit or people live there like it, but
It's funny that you have to, you know, justify with us that we're not tourists because we're from Orlando, but like
yeah,
we're going to visit someplace we
yeah,
are tourists or whatever. Um, but I mean, one thing I like about, just your whole story is the fact that, you've seen three different places. You, I'm sure you have a good idea of like the kind of place that you'd like to live after
yeah,
baseball or college is over, and I definitely think that there is some value to the fact that you've seen three places. You know kind of where you want to end up. Um, just kind of talk about like the importance of getting out of your comfort zone, going to places that you're unfamiliar with, and just trying things out like that.
yeah. Well, it's hard to say. I think I I did get lucky in terms of I ended up in Nashville and I loved it. You know, I tried two other places and I still liked it. But I think it's just important to be open minded to things, and it's not like you can just live where like it's not like you can just live in five different places and be like, oh, I like this place the best. Like I got lucky that I got to experience three different places and be able to say, oh yeah, this one's my favorite. But out of high school, going out of state, um, I did it didn't. I don't want to just completely shit on Blacksburg, but it didn't necessarily meet my expectations in some ways. So I think that was something that I learned a lot was like your expectations versus reality, and also all the practical things that go into living somewhere. So it's like what's around the area, your daily, your grocery stores, your drugstores, all the different things that goes into living in the area. It's not just so much about the name of the place. Like there's a lot of things that go into it, and then like when you look into a city, it's like, okay, which part of the city are you gonna live in? Because one experience of living in the city could be terrible, but if you live, a few miles away, it could be a great experience. And it's also like, well, what's rent in this area? Like, there's a lot of things that go into what makes it great. And like I said, I got really lucky because being, in baseball, I got put in an apartment and in different places that like, made the experience better. But I think it's just important to be open minded and also just to be realistic in terms of like, all right, if I want to live here or if I want to make this move, like, let me think about everything I need in my daily life, or like what would I like, what would I not like, the weather, and like the weather's a big thing. Like, you want to live north of Florida, all right, what's the winter gonna be like? And for me, being born and raised in Orlando, I didn't know what a winter was like, so it's like I go and experience a winter,
What seasons were
and it wasn't the worst thing ever. Like if you clothe yourself every day and you like bundle up, like it's not terrible, but are you gonna what's your daily life gonna look like if you're like, are you gonna be inside for a few months because it's snowing, or like in Virginia it's even that cold. Like Virginia's halfway up the state, and like part of the time I was like freezing my butt off. So it's like, whoa, I don't know if I could live in New York because it's that much colder. Like,
Yeah, and just like driving in the snow too. Like
yeah, exactly. So it's like kind of just using your experiences to kind of gauge, like, well, I didn't like this about this, or I did like that about that, and using that to say, maybe I'll like this, maybe I won't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is kind of unrelated, kind of related. Would you rank Publix as the number one grocery store in the nation?
I would. The prices are a little high, which is it's funny because in Nashville, in my apartment, I actually live south of Nashville. I don't live technically in Nashville. I live really in the middle of nowhere, but it's Brentwood is what you would call it. Um, but I'm like in between Brentwood and it's a weird area. It's Creve Hall, I think is the technical area. But anyways, a quarter mile from my apartment complex is a Publix, a Kroger, and a Walmart.
they have Publix up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
They're
newer.
expanding.
It's newer, but
Yeah.
Publix got up to Richmond, Virginia, so it's
Really?
it's getting up there.
Good for
They're
them.
globalizing.
They are globalizing, but Publix I would definitely rank as the number one. But I also shop more at Walmart this year just because of the prices. Like there is a little bit of a price difference, but if you're gonna, splurge a little bit, or you want to get, certain Publix items, you can't get a pub sub at Walmart.
Right.
So overall, I'd say yes, the grocery store Publix is number one. But if you're balling on a budget, then
Walmart
great
has
value.
the pickup, which is clutch. I'm sure Publix has it too
Yeah.
now, but
Yeah, I've been doing the pickup. I did a lot of pickup for my Christmas shopping, but I didn't do any pickup for grocery.
I just like hate grocery shopping. It's just so annoying. So you just like do everything on the computer and you just pull up and
I for whatever reason I don't mind grocery shopping. Usually just 'cause it's my escape for the week. Like I go to Walmart and walk around with my cart.
yeah, you love the process.
Yeah, I enjoy the process. It gives me something to do. It's relaxing. There's usually
It
AC in there, and it's good vibes. The vibes in Publix are incredible. Are incredible. Walmart, like especially the Walmart by my apartment complex, it's so dark in there, and like it's not it's not happy in any means, but like you go to Publix and it's so bright in there. It feels like it's 12 p.m. at all times. Like even if you go in at night, but
It's got the casino lighting.
yeah, it's nice, but
There's something about it.
it's
So-
all yeah. Go ahead.
Have you ever been to Nashville like before like college like
Yeah,
you had any prior experience?
So I first went to Nashville for the first time in my life last fall of I guess 2019. That's when I went on my visit. And
But before your visit, nothing.
no, nothing. But I ended up going again last Christmas or after Christmas, I should say. I went with the rest of my family who hadn't been. So I'd been twice before. I was technically enrolled in college, but before I was getting recruited, I'd never been in Nashville.
Yeah, and like the way you talk about Nashville, you could see yourself living there, potentially having like a future there.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because this is a place that prior to, your recruitment, you literally probably didn't even think about. Yeah, you probably would have never even given a shot. And it's just crazy like how many other like opportunities are like that we just don't even like know about. That could be like
That's a good
perfect for
point,
us.
and that goes into like that's why you need to be open minded, and also just like when you're deciding, like if you were someone you didn't know where you wanted to live after college, I always think of my parents, be an adult, think about it, look up places, like be practical, like just give it some research, and like, I mean this is like we're having this conversation and we're like none of us have to or have moved into have made a major move like as an adult, so it's not like this is just what I would do. It's just like just be mature about it and like look at like just be open-minded and like look into the things that matter. Don't just be like
Yeah, and it's for each person they're gonna have their own like agenda, I guess. So gotta find something that
and like not being too stereotypical, because I know people think of Nashville and they think of country, which I totally understand. Like there's a big country music scene there, but to be honest, for the most part, it's like a pretty hip place. Like it's really spread out. Like it's not country bumpkin. Like you're not gonna walk around and just see like rednecks going everywhere. Like rednecks don't live in Nashville. Like if anything, it's just like wannabe rednecks. Like I see just a lot of normal people living there, and like downtown's like booming right now, and like in the next few years it should be growing a lot. So I just don't see being in downtown Nashville outside of like Broadway, which is the main street where all the bars are. Like I don't feel country. Like it's not like
Yeah, it's just like a big music scene.
Yeah, big music scene, and like obviously if you're into country music you're gonna love it because you'll appreciate everything that you see. But for me, like I'm in the middle, and I like it doesn't bother me. Like I don't see it as so like that's something that I think people need to look into. Is like you might see a city and be like have your
There's like preconceived notions.
exactly. Yeah.
I definitely think that even throughout your whole journey, you've probably been like one of the most genuine people I've met. I don't think I've ever really seen August Haymaker change. You know, I've just seen like the cities change, and it's always good to see the same August. You know,
that's extremely nice of you to say that. I feel. I mean, I don't feel like I just feel like I've grown up. I wouldn't say change. Like I think I've made good change. I try to be. I don't know. I just try to be normal. Like I don't try to be extreme in any way. Like I'm, you know. But thank you. I appreciate it.
all right. There was a slight cut. The recording, the Zoom PodTrack P4. Shout out Zoom.
Not sponsored, by the way.
Not sponsored or anything.
No free shoutouts.
No free shoutouts. Pay me. Anyway, going back to what August was saying.
I don't want to grow up. Like, I want to be a kid forever. Do not get that twisted. Like, I'm not, like, dying to be adult. When I was really young, I did want to grow up. Like, I wanted to be like my siblings, but growing up does suck. Like, and it's funny because that's, like, a big, like, that was a big internal struggle for me growing up because it was, like, I wanted to be my siblings' ages, like, so bad. I wanted to be older than I was. But what I learned was they're always going to stay that age gap away from me. Like, I'm never going to be the same age as them. So that's, like, when you really dive deep into, like, who I am, that's part of, like...
No, I feel the same way, like, looking at my brother, like, when he was, you know, my age right now, and then I'm, like, now that age, and you just try and, like...
You're never going to catch them.
Yeah.
You're never going to catch them.
Like, what you're saying, you know, you've been to, like, 3 different colleges. You've, you know, obviously been on 3 different teams.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously that's not, like, an easy thing to do. You know, you're literally transitioning, you know, all these, like, different cultures, different programs.
Yeah, there's little stories themselves.
Yeah, and it's, like, you could have just stuck at the same place, and who knows what you'd be doing now. But it'd be easy, you know, to just not have to go through all the recruiting again and, you know, narrow it down and really pick what you want to do. But if you want to improve, you know, those are things you're going to have to do. You know, it's not always going to be easy.
Yeah, and I'll clarify this because I could have, like, my freshman year, I could have stayed at Virginia Tech, and, like, I would have probably had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have had a great degree, you know, been in a great program. Like, there's nothing bad about, you know, being there, and, like, I'm sure I would have had a great life, like, ahead of that, but, and I think about that a little bit, but for the most part, I was just always trying to, I don't want to talk about bettering myself, but it was just
in your best interest.
Yeah, it was just what was in my best interest, and, you know, life's a journey. We're all on different journeys, and I had teammates who stayed and left when I left. And I think they all made the right decision. Like, some people needed to stay, some people needed to leave. And, like, that's just kind of how life is. Like, you can't. And at the time, I didn't really necessarily have that perspective. So it's like, you know, you want people to do a certain thing, but, like, that's not for you to say. Yeah. So, like, everyone has their own path.
And there's also not just, like, one right decision. I mean, like you said, both decisions you could have made, whether to stay or to go, they could both be the right decisions. Exactly. Obviously, it's going to be a different journey, but, I mean, it's not, one thing that you need to do.
Yeah, and that's why you kind of have to look at everything when you're making a decision, because you can say, yeah, they'd be both great decisions. But for me, it's like, well, let me think about everything possible. Let me think about, like, what am I going to benefit from the most?
Yeah, you know, just being able to be realistic with yourself is definitely a good skill to have. You know,
easier said than done.
Way easier said than done. I mean, a lot of people will probably think that, you know, starting a podcast is pretty unrealistic to be successful, but I think that there's a lot of value in just the experience of learning how to do it. And, you know, a lot of people might think that, you know, someone's crazy for going to 3 different places, but you've learned a lot of things that a lot of people will never get to learn because of the experiences that you've had. And, you know, just kind of being able to see that perspective of things is, you know, definitely something that I would like a lot of people to see.
Yeah, well, I think people might just learn it at a different time. I don't necessarily think, like, it's not like my life is that much different. Like, I just learn things at different times, and, you know, through baseball, it's like I've had a lot of life lessons, but, you know, they're life lessons. They're not, like, you know.
Baseball lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, the lessons of just doing things is really it's more about the life side of things than it is about, the baseball side or whatever. And it's cool to be able to talk to somebody about it because, there's a lot of value in these conversations. But kind of going off of the lessons that you've learned and everything like that, um, what is something that you wish you knew about, your experience like 10 years ago?
Oh, 10 years ago?
Actually, just in the like.
I was 10 years old 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know
come
what
to
I
think
was
about it.
thinking at that time. Was I even in middle school when I was 10? All right. Well, let's say 4 years ago. How about that?
Let's say what's something that you wish that you knew before you got into it. So
before college, like high school.
Yeah.
That it's as attainable as it is. Like, it's not that hard. And it sounds crazy, but you're so much closer to your goals than you realize. You just have to put in the work. And the work might take years, but if that's all it takes, that's all it takes. Like, it's not that crazy. Like, it's not. I used to always, like, kind of put it on a pedestal. Like, this is like playing college baseball at this certain place was this crazy thing that, like, there's so many things that get in the way of doing it that I don't know if I'll ever do it. But it's not that far away. Like, it's so attainable, and it's just I think I kind of psyched myself out a little bit, especially early on in college, because I was like, man, like, it might be hard to play or get on the field, or it might be practice might be hard, but, like, that's the hardest part is, like, the mental barriers of, like, what you want to do. And, like, it's going to be hard, don't get me wrong, like, especially in high school when you're trying to get recruited. Like, you can't want to be recruited anymore than like, it's not a will thing. Like, it's not a want, like, oh man, I want this coach to look at me. Like, you just have to do your thing, and, like, if they want you, they want you. If they don't, they're lost. But that's the biggest thing that I wish I knew early on was, like, don't worry so much about what's going to happen. Like, just the daily task is important. Like, just working hard and, like, working on your skill, working on your whatever, like, even in school, like, doing your schoolwork, like, that's going to make it so attainable. Like, it's not as crazy. Like, people want to, make these big words and, like, these big stories, big drama, and make it seem like it's this movie, but, like, nah, your daily life is, like, not a movie. It's just the work that you got to do to get there. And so that's something that, just that perspective I wish I had early on, because I know, like, when I first started practice my freshman year of college, it felt like, man, like, and it's not like I did terrible. Like, I ended up doing better than I thought, but it was like, man, like, I'm not going to be ready to play this year. Like, I was like, part of me was, like, kind of counting it out. I was like, man, I'm too young for this. Like, I'm 18 years old, some of these guys are 24. Like, I'm out of this. But by the end of the winter and, like, start of the spring, it's like you gain some confidence and you're like, oh, I'm so much closer to this spot than I ever thought I would be.
I was just gonna say, how you're saying, things are, like, more attainable than they may seem. Like, and you're talking about baseball, obviously, and that just it's like one of those things that applies to real life as well. One of those lessons that
yeah,
you just
and the other, not that this is complicated, but when you're breaking down, like, what's your end goal, it's more attainable than because the problem is there's just, like, a different route you have to take, and so people don't think about it, or it makes it seem like so much less attainable. So it's like, just for example, it's like if you wanted to play at a Power 5 school out of high school, and in high school you felt like you just weren't that guy, but you can go to junior college. Like, that's an alternative. Like, you go to junior college, and I knew guys, like, I had teammates who, like, went from guys that were just kind of, like, average high school guys, like, they just went straight to junior college, and, like, don't get me wrong, they went to a really good junior college to play baseball, and, like, they were good players in high school, but, like, for whatever reasons, things just didn't line up in high school, but they went to junior college, and now they're at, like, a big name school. And, like, junior college, it's hard to give this advice. Like, I don't know, because of COVID, I don't know what I would, like, I honestly have, like, it'd be difficult to give advice, like, recruiting advice to high schooler, because recruiting is changing a little bit because of COVID and, like, the needs and, like, guys coming back. So I don't know exactly what I said, but before COVID, it'd be like, man, junior college is a great option. Like, if you have a goal, and it's okay to say, like, I want to go to this school. Like, I know I had some travel ball coaches who, like, I would say, oh, I want to go to this school or, like, this type of school, and they'd be like, well, what about this? And it's like, well, if that's my goal, like, how about you just help me try to get there? And like, it's okay to say, I don't think you can go there, but then I'm just going to ask, all right, well, how else could I get there? Like, in junior college, I didn't even think, like, I really didn't even think about junior college in high school. But, like, that could have been, like, I could have just gone to junior college out of high school and ended up somewhere else. Now, I'm glad I didn't do that, because I think I would have ended up somewhere not Nashville that I probably wouldn't have liked, and I would have been a junior and senior in college and been like, like, I didn't learn the lessons. I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I have had in college so far. So, like, I don't have any regrets in terms of what I've done, but just for someone else who's like me and they're in high school, and it's like, well, you can go to junior college and end up where you want to be, and it's not about a big school. Like, it doesn't have to be about a big school, but going to the school that you want to, Mm-hmm. But it's also, and I guess a piece of advice I'd give to high schoolers, like, going back to making an adult decision, it's like, if you want to go to school A, why do you want to go to school A? Like, what, like, let's be practical. Like, is this school, because the school might be worth it, and, like, it might be really attainable, but, like, you might find out there's a better school out there that, like, you're not even thinking of. So, like, I don't want to, when I'm relating this to kind of my thought process, but I wouldn't get too hung up on one school. This goes back to, like, making a practical decision, like, where's the school at, what city, what are the degrees there, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, but, just...
Yeah, be open up to, like, other options.
Yeah. But if you are hard-headed about one thing, like, I'm kind of, I know I'm speaking, like, out of both sides of my mouth right now, but it's like, if you have a dream and you are so, like, willed to do it, like, go for it, like, do that. But if you're kind of, I know I was in between, so I was like, it's attainable. If you have a dream school, it's attainable. Like, you can do it, figure out how to do it, walk on there, do whatever, like, but,
Yeah, and going off of your point, kind of what I was trying to say, I couldn't really bring the words to kind of explain what I was going to get into, but, being a young adult, I think it is important to at least kind of pursue those dreams that you did have as a kid, not wanting to be a kid and everything like that. I mean, not wanting to be an adult, if you do have, like, a childish dream, being a young adult, that is the perfect time to kind of experiment in it and just kind of just to see where it goes, because there is so much, like, so much value in just learning from failure, and bringing this back to the podcast, we wanted to start this, and we're not necessarily afraid of it failing, because I'm sure it's going to take a long time for us to actually get quote unquote recognition or whatever, but it's the lessons, especially when you're young. It's the lessons that you learn along the way.
Yeah. Well, and just it's it's important to just when you're having it when you're young. Like, I know when you're 14 and you have a goal, you don't know what you know when you're 18. So it's like it would be hard to give myself advice at that age, and, like, it's not like I know now what I'm gonna know 2 years from now. But it's good to have, when you have goals, whatever it is, and whatever, like, it's good to have reality checks. No, is this still my goal? Do I still want to do this? How am I gonna do it? What's the best way to do it? What different ways could I do it? Like, it's important to have different perspectives on what you're doing, and just giving yourself different thought processes, because that will, in hand, make you, better in the end.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that you'll you'll be lucky enough to look back on your whole experiences through baseball, no matter where it takes you. I mean, I could see you playing at the highest level if you really wanted to, just with your work ethic and everything like that.
It is very attainable, and that's the same. I should take my own advice because it's more attainable than you realize. Like, it just it takes one great season, and then you think about a great season, you're like, man, that's hard. Like, I gotta hit this many home runs, or I gotta hit this batting average.
You could do it.
But it's more attainable, and when you look at the season, you're like, man, that's hard. That's really hard to do. Well, if I do what I need to do on a daily basis, and I'm not saying like I'm not necessarily saying it's a will thing because there is a lot that goes into it, but still, same idea. Your daily task. If you work your butt off on a daily task, that you just take it day by day, game by game, then all of a sudden you have a great season. You're like, and that's what happened to me in high school. It was just like, I was like trying to, like, junior year was a big year for me, and like, it was more attainable than I realized, but it was like, after the season when I had a pretty good season, I was like, man, that was it. Like, I feel like I could do so much more. And like, all of a sudden my goals changed. So it's like, and junior year is like, I didn't have like any expectation, but it's like once I accomplished like kind of what I wanted to accomplish, I was like, man, like I could do so much more, like, and all I did was but junior year I just worked hard, and like credit to Coach Bradley, like he gave me a great perspective and like made me earn everything I did, and like that, really the work was what, helped me.
Yeah, no, definitely. But you also be able to look back and just have no regret on anything. You don't need to look back and be like, I could have done this.
Really, the work was what, helped me.
Yeah, no, definitely. But you also be able to look back and just have no regret on anything. You don't need to look back and be like, I could have done this a little bit better. Could have done this, because at the end of the day, you're giving it 100%. And I think it shows, and I think the people that are paying attention to you, they can see that it shows too. So you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to do is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's what my mom says to me. Do the right thing.
I taught him everything he knows.
Shout out August Haymaker.
Yeah, no free shout outs.
Dude, you remember your freshman year? It was me and you in the middle infield.
In high school, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because when I say I remember it, I kind of remember it, but I also don't remember a lot of it.
Because you said like you don't really remember
your thought process.
Itself. Yeah,
I do not know my daily thought process my freshman year. It was probably so lame. Like
yeah, nothing like really sticks out, but I just remember
there are kind of some random memories of like hitting in right field, like in those against the net, like while varsity practices. But like outside of that, I do not remember. I remember a few games, but like there's most of my freshman season, and I know like I forgot it on purpose. Like I made sure I never remembered those games, but like yeah, it was like I don't know, that season sucked. Like, and when you really want to break down DP baseballs, like from 2014 to 2018, anyone who followed the program was like, and that's why going to the state Final Four was so cool, because anyone that knew us and knew like the years that we had, especially just like my senior class, because we were like all together in 2014 and like you played with us. And not that our class was like the better class, because we weren't. Like it was just kind of our 4 years. That glow up was pretty crazy. Like we were a JV team with a losing record, and then one of the best teams in the state. Yeah, it's attainable. It's more attainable than you realize. Like if you would have told some of the people, like if you would have told either us or the teams that played us in 2014 freshman year, I guess I say 2014, it would have been 2015 spring. And been like, this class of freshmen will go to state Final Four their senior year, you'd be like, you're cracked out. Yeah. Like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Like, just see, like, other high school coaches, they would have been like, oh, they suck. Like, they're going to be terrible. We're going to, like, all right. Well, and we just, and like, both of you guys know, like, we just went to work. Like, all those Panther challenges we did, and, like, Shout out Team 31.
Yeah, Team 31.
Was that the Team 31? Shout out Team 2018.
Maybe it was Team 30.
Yeah, I might have just shouted out your senior year. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it was. It honestly was 30.
It had to.
Because I think 29 was my junior year. Anyways, shout out DP.
Yeah.
Shout out DP baseball.
Yeah, for real. It was a good time in my life, but definitely one of those where it's hard to talk about.
It's not all glory. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not all glory.
We didn't peak there, that's for sure.
Think about it this way. Our season, our historic season that we had, think about how much of the season was not, like, terrible and not even bad, but just, like, think about how much of the season, like, if we would have lost early on, we wouldn't be here. We literally would not be here. If we lost first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just, like, so much more attainable than you realize because we got hot at the right time.
In reality, like, obviously you have to have a good season to make the playoffs. But once you're in there, like, the reality is, is it just, like, winning one game? Like it's single elimination pretty much. Yeah, because, like, was it, like, Lake Brantley you guys played?
Yeah, we played, like, a 15-inning game. I should say 15.
All you got to do is just compete.
Like
just compete. One game, show up that one game, and you move on, and,
Yeah, but I will say, like, it wasn't really, I mean, obviously, you could say there's luck involved in everything, but I think the reason why we were so good at the end of that season was because the perspective that we had. Like, we had such a good perspective, and, like, obviously we had crazy talent. Like, we were really good. Our ceiling was super high, but we just had such a perspective that I think no other team had in the area because of what we had been through the past few years. And, like, we went through a lot of losses. And, like, by that, like, we lost a lot. In my 4 years at DP, we lost a lot of games. And, like, we lost a lot of hard games. And, like, I think by the time it was our senior year, a lot of the seniors and even the younger guys had stepped up. Like, we were just used to it. Like, we didn't freak out. Like, we honestly, like, when you look back at this playoffs, we didn't freak out. Mm-mm. No one freaked out.
You guys were, like, having fun with it.
We were having a lot of fun with it.
We were all just really, really good friends.
Yeah.
And I think
we had a great daily work ethic. I think we all, like, more so than any high school, I think we went out there on the daily and, like, did our thing, and we loved it. We loved practicing.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a friendly get together when we went to practice, just because all of us kind of were just excited to get work in.
And it wasn't always that way because we had plenty of fights. We had plenty of team talks, but because we did go through that other teams might not have gone through, that was better for us in the end.
Yeah, I think being on a team where, it's more like a friendship than it is a team, you can definitely, kind of evaluate who's kind of draining the energy and, like, who's bringing the energy to it and everything like that. And when you're able to see that, you can definitely bring that into life in a way, and you can kind of see who's there supporting you and who's kind of hoping that, you'll fail. And it's all
you don't
about being
forget
yourself. No, you don't. You never forget the people that, are quietly in the shadows, just kind of
sleep on you.
Yeah. It's all good though. I mean, no bad love or anything, but it's all about.
Yeah, it's all good though.
It's all about, like, finding, like, just the people that want to support you and everything like that.
Hundo P.
One Hundo P. All right, should we wrap this up? I think we got, like.
Yeah, you guys got any other questions? Anything you want me to?
I mean, I think we really went through everything. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was awesome. This was, surprisingly my first podcast I've ever done. I know that probably is a shock to you guys, but
it's really
it's
good.
our first one too.
This is our first one too.
Yeah, that's dope.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, when you, like, last night, or, like, when you found out, like, you were possibly going to be on it, did you have any, like, expectations? Like, or were you kind of nervous?
No, something that I've learned in college, especially meeting, like, new people, not that you guys are new people, but going to different colleges and, like, meeting, different teams and stuff, you do have to limit your expectation. Like, it's okay to have no expectation. And, like, you asked me a couple days, like, well, this goes way back because I talked about doing a podcast.
Way back.
I talked about doing a podcast. Shout out to you guys for actually doing it. I was just all talk.
I mean, shout out Mitchell. Mitchell's the one that got all this stuff.
Yeah, I was all talk when I was talking about doing a podcast. I wanted to do this last summer going into, I guess, my sophomore year. But, you know, we talked about podcasts because we love, you know, we have our different podcasts that we love. But, yeah, I mean, you did it. And,
yeah, it's definitely easier to just say you're going to do something.
Yeah, exactly. But you did it. And shout out because, you know, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's sick.
I wouldn't be here without you two. So let's get that out there because you know, all the one-on-one golf sessions with August and, you know, just having Andrew up in the morning with me, I've been able to work through a lot of things, and I've definitely had the ability to kind of evaluate who I am and kind of figure that out. I definitely think that was a hard thing for me to do in high school, and, you know, because of you guys, I'm, you know, inspired to follow my dreams too. So, thank you.
Well, to finish the question you asked me about, God, it just left my head. What were you? Oh, about the expectation. Yeah, two days ago when you asked me, like, you kind of asked me the question, like, or you gave me the idea of the podcast, and you really ponder it, and I wanted to give it some genuine thought, but, like, I also just wanted to be like, they were all kind of like, all these conversations, as crazy it is, like, you kind of think about this stuff on your own. It's not like it's totally out of the blue. Like, you give kind of thought to these questions, and so, like, it's funny to finally speak it into a mic. But, like, when you asked me 2 days ago, you know, what makes someone a head account, like I said, that's just when I thought about all my teammates, all the people that I've met that are successful, and, like, what do they do? What sets them apart? Because you always take things from people that you meet, and, like, you love something that someone does. So, like, you kind of already know these answers. Like, you already know, you know, what makes someone, like, who you want to be. And, like, you know, obviously we all have different perspectives, so there's different people that we want to be like. But, you know, that's something that I tried to limit my expectations, but I did, you know, kind of just, it was more of a reflection when you asked me to do the podcast. Cause like, man, like, there's a lot of stuff that happens in a year.
Yeah.
Not to say the past few years. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's cool to think about. it.
Yeah, it is, and, you know, I think the big thing is, you know, there were things that I wanted you to think about, but I wanted this to be a genuine conversation, not an interview.
Yeah.
So hopefully it didn't feel like an interview.
No, I didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like the boys on Xbox is what I felt like.
It really does feel like the.
If you
boys
close
on
your
Xbox.
eyes, you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, you're just like in a party.
There's a guy on top. Yeah.
It's really therapeutic though to kind of
Yeah, it is.
talk into it, you know.
It is
figure things out.
therapeutic.
I mean, when we're like getting into it, yeah, it literally doesn't even feel like we're like recording a podcast. Like, it's literally just us talking to each other.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some questions in there, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, before we go on a crazy tangent, you know, if this ends up getting posted, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
If this gets posted,
I think it'll be good enough.
yeah.
but
Fuck it. No.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, thanks for coming on, and
yeah,
you know,
killed it, by the way.
you did. You
Thanks,
killed
dude.
it.
I
You killed
appreciate
it.
that. I hope I
You're-
did
you're
okay.
natural.
10 out of 10. All right. I'll see you guys next time.